This weekend to coincide with both the finals of the Overwatch Champions Series and DreamHack Stockholm, we were treated to a playtest weekend for Hazard, the new hero joining us in just a few weeks when Season 14 releases. This was huge, and not just because of Hazard's size. He's pretty powerful and, most importantly, super fun to play. In this video, I'm going to talk about his strengths, his weaknesses, and generally just break him and his abilities down and explain where and how they're best used in specific situations. I'll get into it in a minute, but first I'm going to ask you to subscribe, as I want to keep making Overwatch 2 related content that isn't only entertaining, but informative too. I also just want to take a moment to say thank you for 900 subscribers. Every 100 sub milestone I reach feels more and more surreal, and I genuinely cannot thank you guys enough for supporting me and enjoying my videos. Now, time to get freaky. Wait, time to get hazardous? Nah, that doesn't really work.
I have three moods. Silly, a little crazy, stinky fart poop, and a little
freaky. Get on the table, you dirty boy.
First of all, let's talk about his abilities because it's important to know what he does. Ability 1 is what I like to call dash and slash, as that's essentially what it is. Press the ability once and you'll jump forwards like Winston and Doomfist, but when you press it again, you'll do a slashing attack which deals a pretty decent chunk of damage. This is what his playstyle mainly revolves around, diving in and dealing a bunch of damage before diving back out to get healed up. Mind you, he has quite a lot of health, with around a third of it being armor. Ability 2 is his wall, working similarly to May's wall but dealing damage and a lot of knockback when enemies come into contact with it. It's a great way to block off doors, especially in modes like Clash and Control where you can force the C9. Ability 3 is his block, which works similarly to Doom's block but shoots out spikes from his back if enemies are within a certain radius of him when he's blocking, kinda like a porcupine. This gives him a bunch of survivability and is actually a surprisingly good CC ability, as there isn't a limit of how many spines you shoot from your back. It's on a resource cooldown like Take a Breather and Defense Matrix, but it doesn't have an ammo count. Ability 4 is a passive wall climb, which is slightly less effective than Hanzo and Genji's, but it gets the job done. Plus, if you use your wall to gain a bit of high ground, you can climb higher. Yes, it means you have to put an ability on cooldown, but at least now you have high ground. His final ability is his ult. He rains down a hail of spikes, trapping enemies in the radius of it. This ult goes through walls, meaning you can safely trap enemies wherever you want to, giving you another means of forcing the C9. I mean, you can use this ult for anything really. Shutting down an ult, forcing a C9, setting up an ult combo like Trap and Riptire or Trap and Dragon. There's a lot of possibilities that you can do. Now, let's talk about the strengths and weaknesses. Hazard is super effective in the dive comp, adding the same kind of value to fights that Winston does because he can get up into the high ground pretty easily, but he can also zone enemy teams with his wall, allowing the rest of the team to follow up with an attack in a certain area of the map where the enemy team can't escape. I feel like that's his main strength. He's like a zoning tank. I find myself playing him kinda like how I play Junkrat, slowly edging myself closer and closer to the fight, playing passively till I know it's a good time to dive in and deal a bunch of damage, letting the enemies come to me most of the time rather than me going to the enemy. It just means I'm less likely to waste my abilities because I'm in a more secure environment where I know they'll work better than if I just use them all willy-nilly like. However, I feel like this is also a hindrance because it's super easy to counter. If you play at a distance where he isn't effective and you are, you're much more likely to win the fight against him because there's not a lot he can do. Yes, he's pretty mobile, but this doesn't mean he's invincible. Speaking of counters, he has a lot of them whilst not really being a counter to any hero in particular. He has very similar counters to Doomfist because it's essentially the same playstyle, so playing into heroes like D.Va and Hog is painful because you can't really do that much. In terms of the meta, I think he'll be okay against Mauga because of his block and wall offering an extra bit of survivability, but you're better off playing a different tank to counter Mauga. There's no stopping that Reaper Mauga combo on Hazard, so you might as well just swap. Hopefully this meta gets nerfed next season because it's so boring to both play and watch. OWCS Finals was just who's better at Mauga Reaper, with a few teams playing off meta. Teams that unfortunately didn't get through to the final, but I won't be spoiling that. But that just about does it for this video. So, in short, Hazard is fun to play and pretty damn strong, but I don't know how he'll hold up against the meta. I know I literally just said that he's strong, but it's mainly against squishies that can't take a hit from his dash and slash. Do that to a tank like Emongg, and yes, it will deal a fair bit of damage, but he'll just heal that up near instantly. There's a bit of a learning curve to him, but if you're familiar with how heroes like Winston and Doomfist are played, you'll get the hang of him in no time. Anyways, thanks for watching. Once again, I'm going to ask you to subscribe and leave a like on this video, as it lets me know that you've enjoyed it and want to see more. Let me know what you think about Hazard in the comments. Did you enjoy this playtest weekend, or do you feel like Hazard needs a few tweaks here and there? Finally, have a nice day or night if you're watching this at night, and make sure you check out some of my other videos. Not only will I appreciate it, but you might too.